Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
So this week's discussion, thanks to a question by Big Dave at Big Dave Pens. He said, what is the best order to watch the Saga films? Now, we're going to take this and stretch it into what's the best way to watch all the Star Wars films, because James and I don't want to leave out Solo or Rogue One. And he said, I personally say 4, 5, and this is episodes now, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, to explain the bombshell in Empire. Vader telling Luke he's his father. What do you guys think? Now, his is sort of a machete order, but he's leaving episode 1 in. But James, let's talk about it. There's no wrong answer, but what are some of the options? We know of the machete order, which is 4, 5, 2, 3, 6, and we're not sure about whether 7 and 8 are after that or not.
Yeah. The reason they leave out 1, just so you know, is because they feel it's unimportant to the story. So
we know of the Pablo Hidalgo preached and often prescribed to order of release method, which means 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3,
7, 8,
7, Rogue One.
Well,
8, Solo.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the numerical method, 1 through the end. So let's dive in, James. I think I know what you are leaning towards. I know what I lean towards. We're not going to get into a battle here, but let's talk about it. What do we think is the way to go?
Well, the reason we're not going to get into a battle is just because, like, at the end of the day, I don't really feel like it's that important. I feel like the viewing order is like an interesting topic, and that continues to change as they're putting out these new movies, especially since like we've talked a lot about Marvel and how they seem to seemingly put out movies like one right after the other timeline wise, but like Star Wars is weird because like they're doing like, well, we'll do like, you know, in this era and then this era, and then there's going to be these things over here, and it's not as clean cut as 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. In which case, if that was the case, I mean, I could still understand somebody saying, well, you got to watch 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3, and then you can start 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, you know.
And also, dude, we're going to have to put a cap on this at some point when we start really branching out with Benioff and Wise and Rian Johnson that have nothing to do with these movies. So you have to stay within this story area.
Yeah. And it gets weird too, because like, we're not doing this, but part of me feels like if you've never watched Star Wars and you're trying to like do this the right way, man, like Clone Wars is something to watch. I really honestly believe that if you watch Attack of the Clones, then watch all of Clone Wars, which is crazy, but you watch the whole series, then you watch Revenge of the Sith. And
the movie?
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, we're not including that in this thing. It's fine. It's whatever, but I think it's important to stick to like the live action stuff. But I seriously do think that if you watch the entirety of Clone Wars and then you went into Revenge of the Sith, you wouldn't even see it as like the closure to these 3 movies. You would see it as like the Clone Wars finale that for some reason they made in live action, and it was like a big budget like Clone Wars finale. I don't know, just crazy. You tend to lean towards release order. Is that?
Are you talking to me or the listeners?
I'm talking to you.
You're talking to me. Okay. Yeah, kind of. I'm having a problem though. So we're gonna see how this gets fleshed out.
All right.
Because I'm thinking, and I don't know how you're gonna be with your son if we're gonna introduce him to Star Wars. But I want my son when he's old enough to get that Luke Vader reveal and be like, oh my God. So that immediately wipes out episodic order to me. So that puts me, that for me, that cancels that out. So I start 4, 5, 6, original trilogy. And then I go back 1, 2, 3, because it's like, okay, how did he become this guy? And then it starts getting a little tricky for me, because where do I put Rogue One in? Do I then go right to Rogue One after 3 and say, remember that first one we watched? This one goes into that. So it gets a little dicey for me. It's not necessarily release order. And then I have 7 and 8, which are literally lead right into one another, so I can't break those two up. And then it's where do I put Solo? So it's starting to get a little cloudy for me, but I know for a fact I'm starting 4, 5, 6, and then hopping to 1, 2, 3. Unless I can be convinced otherwise.
Okay. A couple of thoughts on your order is that for me, I honestly don't think there's any way possible to preserve that moment for my son. And I would say the same for you, but you'll try. I think that moment is going to get spoiled even if I'm trying to keep it from him. He's going to hear that in pop culture. Like kids at school.
Your son's going to be on Twitter at 5?
No, I mean, like, I think, well, what have I been doing for 5 years? Like, I just avoided watching the movies or talking about it or anything around him to try to preserve that moment.
Yeah.
For me personally, Star Wars is still just as important in my life, even though I never really watched the movies like for the first time. I only ever remember them just I always knew what it was. I know there was a moment when I watched it for the first time, but I was so young. Even if I was 5 or 6, like I still think those moments to me, I don't think I'm going to look back and be like, oh man, I remember when I was 5 and my dad showed me Star Wars.
But you know, dude, you'd be surprised, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I think this is important to wedge in here, is even if you go on YouTube, and while some of these may be garbage, there are people who film people who are watching Star Wars for the first time and they getting their reactions, whether it's kids or girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever, who have never seen it before, and getting their reactions when Vader throws that out there. And a lot of them look like genuine reactions. So it is avoidable for people who aren't, as we like to say on our podcast, in the bubble or dialed in, locked into the Matrix, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for all of those videos. I imagine there are some that might be real. But have you ever read the book, How Star Wars Conquered the Universe?
Yeah. Or they had a documentary about it or something.
Well, I'll get to my point. In the book, How Star Wars Conquered the Universe, the author of the book said he wanted to find someone that didn't know anything about Star Wars. And as many times as people always tried to say they didn't know, I don't know anything. I've never seen any of the movies. I don't know anything about Star Wars. They do, because they can tell you Luke Skywalker. They know Han Solo. Mm-hmm. They know Harrison Ford's in the movie. They know who Darth Vader is. And one of the most common things is they know that, I don't even know who these people are, but I know that Luke Skywalker is Darth Vader's son, you know, or vice versa, the father. So I really do believe, and he looked and looked and looked, and he like paid people, and he did auditions.
That's Chris Taylor.
He had people
from Mashable.
Yeah, he had people come in and try to do these things, and he could never find anybody. And when he finally did find someone, it was an Indian on a reserve. And he figured out that the person didn't know anything about Star Wars because he casually mentioned an X-Wing, and he said, I don't know what you're referring to. What is that? And then he started asking questions after that, and he found the person that truly, really did not know anything about Star Wars. And, you know, he showed him the movies and stuff. But to me, I think that some of these things are just so ingrained in American culture that it's not, I dare say it's not impossible, but it's just highly improbable that we're ever going to really be able to preserve that for our children, that they're going to get that moment and they're always going to remember that moment. I can barely remember what happened, you know, my moments from like the prequels. I don't even remember. And I was like a teenager when those came out. Mm-hmm. And I have a bad memory, but
yeah, dude, that guy follows me on Twitter. Like I know who the author is, Chris Taylor. I never read that book though. I know it's wildly popular, but I mean that you need to take into consideration elements of that though. Just because someone has heard of Star Wars or heard of Darth Vader, they may not necessarily know that Darth Vader is Luke's father or whatever.
But they usually also don't care. Yeah,
but I don't want to get too deep into that one aspect of it. I do think it also is important to for me, watch them as they came out too, because you talk about fan service and tying things in, and George Lucas did a lot of that in the prequels. And if you watch the prequels 1, 2, 3 first, a lot of that stuff just wouldn't make sense to you. So I have a hard time. I do have a difficult time trying to come to terms with the fact of watching episodes 1, 2, and 3 first. Like me personally, and again, it's all opinion based. There's people out there that probably like your method there. That I just can't connect to that idea. And that process.
It's hard to call it my method because I really honestly don't really have a preference for this. But where you're coming from is I mentioned that I would probably lean somebody towards watching it in release order, or chronological order. And the reason I do that is because I had a friend who had never seen any of the Star Wars movies, and he knew, like I said, he knew some of this stuff anyway. But I told him that if he watched it in release order, then he's just like everybody else. But if you watch it in chronological order, then you have this unique perspective that for the rest of your life, you'll be able to remember that like these things got revealed to you in a different way. Because 99% of people have seen it one way, and you would be like this rare breed that watched it in for the first time in a different light. And that's why I recommend that to people. It might not even be the best, but it's so unique and so interesting that you would be able to come out of it laughing at the fact of like, why didn't Luke Skywalker recognize Yoda? We know who Yoda is. and that's a moment that's supposed to be special in Empire Strikes Back, but you have this interesting look on it, like, what? Now, where's he going with this? You know what I mean? Because I know that's Yoda.
How come Yoda isn't a cartoon in this one? How come he looks like a physical, tangible thing?
I mean, you're gonna have to put some of that stuff to the side. Yeah, there's like obviously a lot more CG in this, but
what if someone's starting Star Wars? If you're leaning original trilogy, starts with Rogue One.
Oh, I've said that for a long time. I mean, since Rogue One came out, I think that was the other point that I was going to make on your order. You said you didn't know where to...
Is it strong enough?
Yeah, I think so. The thing with me is like, I feel like you mentioned earlier that when you watch 7, it's hard to try to stick Solo somewhere in between 7 and 8. And
yeah, well, only because I feel like seeing Solo after The Force Awakens would make the most sense. But because The Last Jedi takes off literally right after 7, it's tough for me to do it.
Which is exactly why I think it makes sense to watch Rogue One and then immediately go into, because if you're talking about getting someone like sucked into this story, not that it's bad to go from A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back, but I'm saying like, as soon as they finish Rogue One, you're gonna be able to say, and it picks up right. The next movie picks up right after this. You know what I mean? You're gonna be able to see like Vader invading that ship. It's just like that to me, and I think it makes the most chronologically. The only downside of doing that,
and to be clear,
is watching 3 more movies and being like, What was the whole deal with like Jyn Erso and all that stuff? You know what I mean?
James, just so people aren't confused, when you're saying chronologically, you mean in the story order, not when they were released, because people may be confused. When you say chronologically, they may think in our time.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I say chronologically, I do mean in the sense of like, what's the earliest timeline story of Star Wars? So A New Hope, then Attack of the Clones, then
just clarifying.
Yeah, then Revenge of the Sith. And then it gets weird because, like I said, Han Solo fits in there somewhere. I think my chronological argument has always been for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8, and what will be 9. That chronological story to me makes sense. If you're bringing in Solo, you're bringing in Rogue One, then I start to get a little bit weird with it. I'm like, I think you should watch Rogue One first, then you go into A New Hope, then you do, I don't know. I guess you would go Rogue One, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, then maybe Solo. I don't know. And then that would be like a palate cleanser to open up for 7, 8, 9. Because I don't think 3 leads into 7 at all.
I think I'm doing it, man. I think I'm wedging Solo in between 7 and 8.
Really? That one seems so weird to me.
And the only reason why is because
Han Solo dies and then you get the flashback.
Yes, but then also you see him experience his dice and all that stuff, and then they get launched right into The Last Jedi.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I'll concede that a little bit.
So I'm saying,
because you don't think of it as like you watch 7 and now for some reason you're going to watch Solo. You need to think of it as I just watched Solo and now I'm getting ready to watch The Last Jedi, and those things will connect more. Whereas like 7 doesn't really have any connection to Solo.
Yeah, so
you
watch,
sort of does.
Yeah, so you get The Force Awakens, you see Han die, so his story's finished. You see Chewie sulk about it, he's sad about it. Then what do? You go back and find out how these two met. You see how they became buddies. You see how they became friends, and you see the young Han and go on in the adventure and become that kind of jaded guy that that's why we saw him in episode 4. Then you launch into episode 8 and Chewie busts down the door and Luke's saying, "Where's Han?" Like, you may feel that a little more. And
I can understand that. I don't know that I have necessarily a better place for Solo.
That's the thing. Yeah. I don't know if there is.
I did think at one point that Solo might be like, hey, I know this is weird. It's not going to get into the lore, but we're going to start with Solo. Like, I'm just going to introduce you to this like cowboy, and then you maybe go into A New Hope. You know,
the only reason why you can't is because then you're almost discrediting Luke. Like you're putting him you're giving Han a head start, and you're like taking Luke out of the driver's seat to being your protagonist. Because then they're going to go into A New Hope saying like, "Where's this guy?"
I get that, but that's the thing is like, doesn't everybody looks at Luke as the main character? Isn't it interesting to introduce the Star Wars trilogy of like, what if this person has a perspective that maybe Han's like a very important character? Like to watch Solo,
and that's
learn
fine,
about him, and then go into New Hope and be like, this is cool and all that this kid. How does Han Solo fit into this? Because I just like watch that whole movie with him. Oh, here he is. All right, let's see how he fits into. Okay, a little bit different character personality here. Seems a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like, and start to kind of see the movie.
But it's like 45 minutes or so into A New Hope. So you're going to see 2.5 hours of Solo and Chewie, and they do this Kessel Run, and they're the heroes, and they're going off on this adventure, the Jabba the Hutt thing. Then you got 45 minutes of this whiny little farm boy, and he meets this old wizard, and you're like, where is this guy? Where's Han? Where's Chewie? Then 45 minutes in, you're like, why now? And why are they now like the second fiddle? Like, what is going? So yeah, I think my only problem with that.
I think the only way that this makes sense, really, because you're going to get that no matter what order you watch it in, I think. But the only way that it would make sense to me is if they actually did like cuts, like they cut into the movie and they're like, all right, we're going to show you the first 40 minutes of A New Hope, then we're going to show you this from, No. I know that's like super weird, but like if they made like a 20-hour supercut of Star Wars, best believe it wouldn't be like in its entirety.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not going to show you all of A New Hope straight through. There might be some that they think that's the best way to do it, but you got to think they're going to be flashing back to the prequel stuff to explain these elements and things like that.
Well, let's run down as we stand right now our list, because I'm looking at this and then I want to hear yours. I'm thinking right now, start with Rogue One, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, Solo, 8.
So it's interesting. You bought into my Rogue One should be the first one theory.
I kind of did. I'm a little nervous about it because I like the opening to A New Hope being it's very classic and deserves that, but it makes too much sense not to go with the Rogue One into 4. So yes, I am buying that pitch, that idea.
Yeah, man, it's funny. Like, I know everybody who's listening to this is like, this is just what he's thinking in the moment and it's nothing permanent. But for some reason, my brain is like, I'm too afraid to say anything. Like, it's like, this is my permanent opinion on this.
It's frozen in time.
Yeah, I know. I guess my thoughts, like right now, I kind of have two, but I do still like the idea that you watch the prequels and you don't know who Sidious is. You don't know necessarily that Senator Palpatine is the bad guy and he's the person pulling he's the Phantom Menace. Let's just say that. Mm-hmm. And I think like watching the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from the perspective of him and watching him like pull all the strings and cause this big thing to happen, and then watching his resolution of being the emperor and how bad it was. I think the only thing that the interesting part of that is being able to watch is once you get through the prequels 1, 2, 3, then watch Solo, then watch Rogue One, then go into 4, 5, and 6. And you get a little bit of a break from like the main story, but you still get to see what the Empire has done on Corellia, what the Empire has done on Mimban, and then you also get Rogue One stuff. So you see what happened like through Jeddah and what's happening on those planets. And then
after Jeddah, you watch Favreau.
Yeah. But after Rogue One finishes, that's when you get like a little bit more of the closure to this story. Okay, I saw the opening. I took a break. I went and saw Solo and Rogue One. I saw what the rest of the galaxy's dealing with. How does this all end? 4, 5, and 6. Boom, there they are. And then guess what? There's a sequel. It's called 7, 8, and what will be 9. Mm-hmm. And those stories to me do feel like they're important to watch. Like I don't think this has never got brought up that we think you start with 7. You know what I mean? I feel like that would be a really weird. 7? No. I'm saying like that would be a weird perspective. We didn't even bring it up. Like nobody's saying, first of all, I think you got to start with Last Jedi. Then you go back and watch 7. Like it, that's
start with
weird.
Last Jedi, and then you hate Star Wars.
Yeah,
and then you stop.
Yeah, then you move to Japan and realize that these people are more into Godzilla, and you're like, okay, yeah, this makes sense.
No, I wanted to bring it back to what you said because you made a good point about Palpatine, like people not knowing Sidious is Palpatine. But
you spend all of Phantom Menace going, oh, I already know though. I get it.
But
I already know.
I'm trying to think. If you're
when is he going to turn evil?
Can you kind of tell it's him?
It's hard to say because
I definitely do by the end because they pan to him at the funeral
before the movie was even out. No. I don't think you ever.
Dude, when they go, when Yoda goes as Qui-Gon's burning, he goes, always two there are, a master and an apprentice.
Yeah.
And he says, which one was killed, the master or the apprentice? And it pans right to Palpatine's face.
I know.
They're giving it to you.
We say that though, but this is coming from a perspective of we knew that Ian McDermott was going to be playing both characters.
No. It's because he made those movies knowing that everyone saw 4, 5, 6.
That's my point. Is that we knew
that's why
before
you can't
we
start
even
with 1, 2, 3. That was my point earlier.
No, but my point is that when he pans it to them, is that like creative foreshadowing, like, or is he really just like, well, we all know, so I'm just going to make it straight up obvious. Like, I don't think it is. I think that if you have never seen the original Star Wars, then it's not as obvious to you when they make that pan because...
All right, how about this? Wipe the slate clean.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Palpatine yet after A New Hope. So you watch 4, then 1, 2, 3, then 5, because then he talks to Vader in the little message, and then 6. And that's your Palpatine watching order. Like, let's make an order for every character.
Actually, that preserves the father thing. Oh, no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. So maybe go 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6.
So the machete order.
But you're throwing one in there.
Yeah.
We should write out one day, viewing orders for each main character, how it benefits, like the best way to watch that character's
that
story.
That would be sweet. So it's like
how to watch Han's story, how to watch Leia's story, how to watch Vader's story, how to watch Palpatine's story. Like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
That would be kind of cool.
All right, so we have to do another discussion on that when Lacey's back, where we come up with our list for each character.
How to watch DJ's story. It's like Last Jedi, and then read this one-shot comic.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's it. Yeah. The Maz Kanata story arc.
Okay, so to wrap the whole thing up, I'm staying chronological. I'm going Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, Solo, Rogue One, New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Revenge of the Skywalkers. Whatever.
Revenge
episode,
of the Skywalkers.
I don't know. I just doesn't. Whatever.
Awful.
What was yours? What was your title?
Jedi don't commit revenge.
I know.
Mine was Legacy of the Skywalker.
Legacy of the Skywalkers. Yeah. I don't even remember what mine was, but
I think yours was Super Shredder Vader.
Yeah, but it was called like
Episode 9.
It was something of the dark, right? It's like
was it Fear of the Dark? Was it an Iron Maiden song?
No. I think it was like Fate of the Dark or something like that. Or
you would put Fate in your title.
I think
actually, you know what's funny? I thought I saw Fate of the Galaxy, and I was like, that'd be a great title for episode 9. But then someone said there was already a book called that. So,
is it Legacy of the Dark? Is that what I called it?
Could be.
Yeah. Anyway,
we can go back and listen.
Episode 9 speculation titles. John, what's your order? Official
order,
on the record, never gets changed.
The July 23rd, 2018 order that I may change down the road after I have Chipotle. Maybe that'll change my entire life.
Oh, it will. It will.
Yeah. So this is my James. This is my pre-Chipotle order. So like BBY, this is like BC for me. This is before Chipotle.
It's like Rogue One, A New Hope, Chipotle, Empire Strikes Back. Like,
more Chipotle.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going. This is John Hoey's before Chipotle viewing order. Rogue One, A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, then going back to the prequels, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. Then we go to The Force Awakens, back to Solo, because I really feel the strength on that Han Solo tie-in with Kylo Ren. And then you take it to Episode 8, where his death is more impactful by seeing a young Han and the dice and all that stuff. So,
and then Legacy of the Skywalkers.
And then, Legacy of the Chipotle.
Man. And I don't think in the future we'll ever change, like, take Solo out of it. I don't think we'll ever change 7, 8, 9. I can't imagine that either 7, 8, or 9 would ever go before 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6.
Unless JJ does something really bizarre, but I agree.
Yeah. I mean, like, he did say he was wanting to tie in the whole trilogy and the whole whatever, the whole series.
The whole saga. Yeah.
The whole saga. That's the best term.
And he also said he's going to take us places we haven't been or something. Now, I don't know if he means that literally, like we're going to Batu and Galaxy's Edge or what, but...
Yeah, but we'll have been to Batu.
Not in a movie.
Not in a movie. Yeah, not in a movie.
In a book.
Although...
Spoiler alert.
The reason I hesitated there is because I was like, wait, Batu has been referenced in a movie, though. And it kind of was. They mentioned the Black Spires in Solo, which is on Batu. But
are we allowed to say that it's in that book yet?
What do you mean?
Thrawn Alliances.
That Batu is in the book Thrawn Alliances?
Mm-hmm.
It's in the excerpts. That's public. That's not like...
Well, not everyone's probably... I'm not saying maybe people haven't read the excerpts, so...
That's true. Do you want to get to resistance transmissions? Or
so we asked you guys, should we have mentioned Batu? And you said no.
No. Hey everyone, thanks for watching that video. And if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and head over to the full episode by clicking this box here. If you want, you can subscribe, and that way you get all the weekly news, you get our discussions, you get information on our giveaways whenever we do them. It's a good time, we promise. Thanks for watching the Resistance broadcast.